Hello and welcome to the Superhero Hub, and today we are opening up.
The superhero files.
Yeah, and what page are we? What page have we opened on?
Cable.
Excuse me.
Cable.
Oh, okay. So electrical engineering we're going to be discussing today. Oh,
Sure.
wrong page. Wrong page.
No.
So, Cable, also better known as Nathan Christopher Charles.
I wouldn't say better known.
Yeah, Nathan Christopher Charles Summers. First appearance of Nathan Summers was the Uncanny X-Men issue 201 in January 1986. So, what many people would say is a new character. Cable also known as Cable himself, appeared in New Mutant issue 96 as a tiny little panel in the next issue, and his first full appearance was in New Mutants issue 87, the issue afterwards, in March 1990. So very, very recent.
Well, relatively.
Nathan Summers was created by Chris Claremont, and Cable was co-created by Louise Simonson and Robert Liefeld. He is the adult son of Cyclops, Scott Summers, and Madeline Pryor, who is a clone of Jean Grey, who later turns out to become a supervillain for some reason.
That's terrible.
He is also the half-brother of a Miss Rachel Summers.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Some alternate realities are very complicated.
But luckily we're going to decode that for you. So, yeah. In the whole issue 87, he is first seen in conflict with Strife, who is a clone of him. There are a lot of clones of him for some reason. So Strife, who leads the Mutant Liberation Front. So Cable goes up against them, the US government, and Freedom Force. He's also came into conflict with Wolverine, noting that the two of them had an old feud. So Cable, Wolverine, the New Mutants, and Sunfire teamed up to face off against the Mutant Liberation Front, which led to Cable becoming the leader of the New Mutants, and has also come up against the Genosians. Give him some more details about his comic book stuff.
Well, so Nathan Summers was basically I guess what they call it, a mega level mutant.
Yeah.
He's super powerful, basically.
Wasn't he kidnapped as like a kid or something?
That's what I'm getting to. Oh. He's kind of like a John Connor like figure of he was apparently destined to defeat Apocalypse. So Apocalypse was the big villain of X Factor, which is where the original X-Men went when giant-sized X-Men came and the new X-Men, Wolverine, blah blah blah, all them lots. So X Factor became what the original X-Men meant, and he was a big villain of that Apocalypse. And Nathan Summers was born and was destined to defeat Apocalypse. So Apocalypse inflicts him with the Techno-Organic virus, which is where the metal arm comes from.
Yeah. So the Techno-Organic virus, what it does is it changes normal flesh into technological material, hence his cybernetic eye and his cybernetic arm. So yeah, continue.
So the only way, there's no real cure for it, but there is a way to teach him how to control it, but the only way for that to be done was for him to go into the future. So he gets kidnapped, blah blah blah. I think, if I remember, don't hold me to this, if I remember rightly, I think in the end, in a weird time travel, timey-wimey thing, Cable may have organised his own kidnap, or as Rachel Summers. But anyway, the point is, he goes to the future where he becomes the Ascani's son, and they teach him how to control it, which basically means part of his power is always devoted to keeping the virus in check,
which
he does with the arm and the... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, because his main two powers are telepathy and telekinesis, and it's the telekinesis that he uses to keep it at bay. So it's always like one part of him's like controlling that. So yeah.
So he's always hindered. You know, it's kind of like a thing sort of with Darth Vader, right? Where Darth Vader was actually more powerful as Anakin Skywalker, but he's always in such pain that he has to try and keep his body together, so he's not quite as powerful as he used to be. Apparently, he's a robot as well. Cable has always devoted part of his time to keeping the virus in check. So even though he should be this basically a god, he's not, because he's always using part of his power. And so in the future, Apocalypse has taken over, and he fights him, and he's got a son, and blah blah blah. And in the end, he has to go back to the past, which is how Cable becomes a member of the regular X-Men continuity through the New Mutants.
Yeah, so he is cured of this virus by Hope Summers.
Right, yeah. That's another time later. That's another one of his adopted kids.
Of which she uses the Phoenix Force to cure her. Obviously, he's spent a lot of time with Deadpool.
Yeah, that was... So Cable initially was like they always hinted that he was kind of Nathan Summers in the future, but they didn't confirm that for a few years. And so Cable initially was basically like the big gun-toting anti-heroes that there were in the late 80s, early 90s in comics, and eventually once they revealed what everyone kind of assumed, that he was Nathan Summers from the future, and they did the whole thing with Strife, he joined the X-Men and fulfilled his destiny, if you will, and took out Apocalypse, who was kind of Cyclops as well. That was a bit convoluted, but that happened. And as we got into the new millennium and the gun-toting anti-hero thing kind of died down and people weren't into it anymore, he wasn't as interesting. They tried to relaunch him, and I forget what they called something. They gave him a different name and a new comic, and it didn't last for very long. I forget what it was called, but it was kind of a life support for a while, Cable. And then another character Rob Liefeld created was Deadpool, and they threw them together, and it worked. And suddenly Cable was likeable again as the straight man. I assume this is what they're going to do in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, I can imagine Cable's like really like super serious, and Deadpool's just like, you know, bothering him over his shoulder, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was the gag. They were, you know, they're not cops, but it's like a buddy cop kind of thing, right? Where he's a straight man and Cable's this wacky dude, and it worked. And it was a fun comic, and it went on for about 50 issues or so, and it was damn good. And that kind of breathed new life into Cable. But again, after that, he kind of disappeared for a while, as he tends to do. The fact, you know, the fact that he's from the future, you can get away with that. Until they built up Messiah complex thing, House of M happened, and they wiped out most of the mutants because of Scarlet Witch, and a new mutant was born, the first mutant after that, and that became Hope. And Cable looked after her, and that breathed new life into his character again as he raised her throughout time, and they got chased by Bishop, and there's the whole thing.
Yeah. So Cable was born with telepathic and telekinetic abilities. The use of these powers has varied dramatically throughout his appearances, both limited by the need to restrain his techno-organic infection. When he loses the techno-organic virus, they increase to the point of Nate Grey, of whom he is genetically identical.
Nate Grey is X-Man. He's from another, it might have been even the Age of Apocalypse, I can't remember, but basically he's a version of Cable that didn't get affected with the Techno-Organic virus.
Yeah, and he is definitely classed as Omega level mutant.
Mm-hmm.
At their height, his abilities, he demonstrated the ability to levitate the floating city of Providence and combat the Silver Surfer at the same time. He has fought Wolverine to a stalemate, defeated Captain America in hand-to-hand combat, and defeated Falcon, Red Hulk, and Iron Man at the same time using brute force and wit, all while Cable was in severe pain and hours from dying as a result of the Techno-Organic infection. When Legion travels back in time to kill Magneto in the Legion Quest storyline, Beast notes that Cable possesses latent time travel abilities with the assistance of Shi'ar technology. Professor X jumpstarts these abilities while Jean Grey holds Cable's body together telekinetically, allowing his consciousness to travel into the past, pretty much like Days of Future Past, right? Like they did in the film. So instead of Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, it is Jean Grey
and Cable.
Yeah. In the Messiah War conflicts, during the fight with his clone Strive, Cable demonstrates the abilities to hide others from Strive's mental view, implying that he retains some telepathic powers. He also possesses some telekinesis, but uses it solely to keep the virus in his body at bay. His techno-organic body parts possess enhanced strength and durability, and his techno-organic left eye gives him enhanced eyesight, also allowing him to see further than a normal human and to look into the infrared spectrum. He is also able to interface his body parts with machinery, using them to hack computers, open electronic locks, and travel through time. As of the end of Avengers X Sanction, Cable is cured of the techno-organic virus by the Phoenix Force, in possession of Hope Summers, and retains his telepathy. As a result of being cured, his cybernetic arm and eye return to flesh and blood, although they no longer function. He wears an eye patch and an enhanced brace, which is laden with special weaponry, which was given to him by Forge. All you Forge fans out there. He's also utilised a spear-like weapon called the Scimitar, like scimitar, but Psi as in psychic, which amplifies and focuses his telekinetic and psychic abilities into power bursts.
Yeah, so they kind of they have their cake and eat it too. It depends like who's writing it. Like what version of Cable do you want? Do you want the original gun-toting one, which is I think the one they use the most? Then if you want the Cable that's got all these superpowers, then you can do that too. It just depends on what the writer wants.
In terms
I imagine the movie will go for the former.
Yeah, because Josh Brolin's playing him now. He has signed a 4-picture deal. We know I think X-Force is coming in the future, but I don't know whether that's confirmed or not. There's going to be the New Mutants, but whether he's going to feature in that as well, and obviously he's prominently going to feature in Deadpool 2, which, I mean, it'd work way better if they kind of did that, the kind of serious Josh Brolin and then Deadpool over his shoulder. Whether they kind of, if they've got the TI thing, or TO thing, if they cure him of that for like, when he goes into other stories, or whether they just retain him
I don't think so. I don't think they'll even go too much into it. They might mention the Techno-Organic virus, but I don't think they're going to get into Apocalypse and all that crap anyway.
I don't really think that makes sense, given that they've kind of already done Apocalypse as well. So I mean, but there's 2 variations of the Techno-Organic virus, so if they kind of don't kind of touch into the Apocalypse but touch into the other kind of iteration of that, maybe they could do something with that. So unless there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that pretty much gives you all you need to know about Nathan Summers, also known as Cable. I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
And for this edition, we are closing the Superhero Files, and we'll see you in the next episode.